From iowapodcast.com, I'm Justin Brady, and where is the best seafood in Des Moines? I'm sure there can be a raging debate on that, but maybe it's at Splash downtown Des Moines. The reason I say that is because a lot of training and a lot of logistics go into this. And I had no idea until today, and so Bruce Gerleman, the owner of Splash, has brought in a special guest with him. Bruce, who is in the studio, and what are we talking about?
Hey, Justin, it's exciting to have Scott Valder. Now, Scott has been with me for 25 years, and so he's, in my opinion, the most knowledgeable seafood expert in our city. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is Scott Valder.
And now you're going to open with a song.
Actually, I just thought I was here to look pretty.
You were telling me before we were recording this how much training goes into just understanding a baseline of what your new servers coming in.
Right.
This is crazy to me because when I get into a restaurant, highly trained servers know their stuff, and I'm like, what goes into this? So you're kind of the guy behind Splash Seafood in downtown Des Moines that's doing all this training. Tell me about that.
First day of training is always with me, and what I am covering is the menu. I'm not here so much to tell you what every item is as I am to see where your knowledge lies so we know what to address with you as far as your future training. But my first day, usually I spend 3 to 4 hours with each trainee on the menu, both giving them facts, but also seeing, like I said, where their level of stands of knowledge of seafood. So
3 to 4 hours
minimum
of training just day one,
just for this,
for the menu,
just for this menu. We also have a feature menu and a wine list.
Okay, all right. So what goes into the training? Because the 3 to 4 hours, can't someone read a menu in about 10 minutes? What? Why is there so much up front?
Well, first of all, let's take an example: Chilean sea bass.
Mm-hmm.
This is our best-selling fish. Probably 30% of our sales are sea bass. But what many people don't know is it's not a sea bass. It's actually known as the Patagonian toothfish. This name was legalized in 1996 by the FDA or whoever that legalizes that there in Washington. And it's actually a member of the ice cod family. This fish lives in the Patagonia region and Antarctic ice shelves in very deep and cold water. What that leads to is this fish has to carry a lot of oil in its flesh to keep itself warm. So when you bite into this fish, it's like eating butter. It melts in your mouth. And no name on the menu is going to tell you these details.
Right. Yeah, because that's what you expect from a great server at a restaurant, is to tell you all those details.
Correct.
Because I think a lot of food, wine, obviously, and we're going to talk about wine, by the way, with you, because you know a lot about that. Wine often has the reputation of all these tasting notes, but the same thing is very, very true with food. And I feel like a lot of people are completely lost when they look at a menu. I'll give you an example. The first time I had swordfish, I was shocked. It's like steak. It's
Correct.
Really fatty.
Yeah.
So are different fishes, or different fish, different seafood, more fatty and they have more oil and that leads to flavor, and then some don't? What's
Correct.
the spectrum there?
Generally, the colder the water the fish comes from, the more oil it's going to carry in its flesh. There's also higher oxygen in colder water and more feed. So you're getting better fed fish. They produce more fat. That comes across as flavor and texture.
Got it. Okay, so you've said a few things here, and you mentioned the significance of cold water.
Correct.
And Bruce, we've spoken about fish and seafood, but I'm learning a lot as fast as I can. What's the impact on cold water on oysters? Because I know that oysters, the better oysters, come from cold water, and
Correct.
you guys pick certain locations
Correct.
to get your. Tell me about that.
So once you get farther south of Virginia, the water temperatures rise pretty drastically. Oysters can be susceptible to Vibrio. This is a disease that 2 or 3 people catch a year. It's certainly nothing to be worried about. But that's why if you eat southern oysters, you always have to put Tabasco sauce or vinegar or some sort of acid, lemon juice, to kill any bacteria that may be in them. Now, once you get to Virginia and north, the water is too cold for these bacteria to live. This is why we like to feature cold northern oysters from the crisp waters of the Atlantic and Pacific. You don't have to worry about that acid. You can just try that oyster by itself, or you can dress it up however you like. As far as oysters go, generally East Coast oysters are going to have about 2 flavor profiles in them. They're going to be briny and they're going to be sweet. And the farther north you go, the more sweetness that oyster gets into it. My personal favorites are from Prince Edward Island. They're sweet and briny. It's a perfect combination. So that's my personal favorite. If you like a brinier oyster without the sweetness, you go down to Maryland, possibly, or Virginia. Those will have fewer sweet notes in them.
Oh, that's what we see when we see on a menu PEI
Correct.
oysters. That's Prince Edward Island.
Correct.
Oysters.
So, and all our oysters are 100% sustainable. They are farm raised, so they have zero impact. Matter of fact, almost everything on this menu, 99% of it is a green light according to Monterey Bay. We've been around 27 years. We'd like to be around 27 more, and we have to be stewards of the ocean to do that. So, we do a lot of farmed oysters, things like that, to keep the sustainability and to keep these things alive for future generations.
You mentioned earlier that, I don't know how you said it. You mentioned like fresh or flown in or
Jet fresh.
Jet fresh. That's what you
Correct.
said. What is that? Are you bringing this stuff in? How often are you bringing
Daily.
this?
It comes in daily.
Daily?
Correct. Yeah.
You've talked about this before, Bruce. So tell me about the mechanics of that. Like, I only know a little bit of like no pun intended, 30,000 foot view of how this works.
Right.
But do you basically have a plane coming in every day with splash stuff?
With Honolulu Fish Company, we like to do business with them. Literally, Ryan has the ability to talk to the guys on the boats when they get in. When they get in after their morning trip, they do day trips. So they only go out for one day and they come back that same day. This ensures it's not sitting on ice for 2 or 3 days before we get it. Generally, when it's sitting in your plate, it's 24 to 48 hours out of the water.
That's wild.
It. So yeah, they have a beautiful rainbow box from Honolulu Fish Company. It comes it's packed with styrofoam and ice and fish, and he pulls them out every day and cleans those loins every single day.
Because that's like about the same timeline you're going to get it on the coast too.
We've actually had people from the coast tell us that our fish is better, which is actually very believable. So much of that seafood on the coast is actually flown out to other places. So California likes East Coast oysters as much as New York does. So a lot of those oysters coming in from that East Coast, they end up in California. So yeah, it can be harder to get seafood at the coast sometimes, for sure.
So you're basically receiving these things every day.
Yeah, every day.
Then it goes right into the kitchen, right into prep, and right on someone's plate.
That's pretty accurate, yes.
That's and so I'm assuming part of the training when you're training new servers goes into telling people how fresh this is, because we're in freaking Iowa,
right?
And it's reasonable that most people would assume this stuff has been frozen and sitting there for weeks.
Yeah, we're thousands of miles away from the ocean,
right?
And I'll be honest, before I came to Splash, I had a knowledge of seafood, but it was very cursory. It was not. It was always enjoyable, but the star on the plate is that fish,
right?
And it really stands out like no other fish. I remember the first time I tasted Chilean sea bass. We ran it for a feature, and I was like, "This is amazing. We got to get this. We have to have this every day," and we have ever since. So even. How would I put this?
Well, you mentioned Chilean sea bass, and then earlier I was talking about swordfish. You were talking about a few different fish. Can you give us I don't even know how to ask this question because I'm not knowledgeable enough, but is there a fish that if you like a ribeye, you should get swordfish, or if you like how do people choose which fish they want to put on their plate?
Well, so many go towards mild or oilier. If you want a mild fish, scallops are mild. They're very sweet and mild. Sea bass has a mild flavor, but it has that rich, buttery texture. If you want a steakier fish, yes, you definitely go towards the swordfish. Unless you like your steak rare, then you go toward the tuna. Tuna steak.
Oh, good point.
Yeah. If you like a rare fillet, medium rare fillet, you're going to love our rare tuna. It's got that same texture. Again, high fat content that melts in your mouth. If you like a strong flavored fish, you go for that salmon. It has a nice, bold, salmony flavor. So you kind of have to find, feel out the customer, see what they're looking for, and let them guide you to where you want to take them.
So this is actually a tip then for consumers and for people looking for fresh seafood in Des Moines is when you come to Splash, make sure to tell your server what your preferences are, because they can actually guide you to a pretty good choice because they're being trained by you.
Hopefully. Not only that, we are always into adding onto a dish. If you are torn between the sea bass and the scallops, you don't have to pick one. You can get the sea bass and a couple of scallops on the side. You can get them both. You can get the best of both worlds. And that all comes with training and knowledge, and that's what we try to instill in our staff, is to lead these customers to these things that we have fallen in love with, because we know they will too. People come back to Splash time after time after time because they've tasted these things and they've trust us, and we built that rapport with our customers over the years. I guess I should say.
Scott, one of the things that people really enjoy about Splash is our Alaskan king crab legs.
Oh yeah,
and our whole Maine lobsters. And talk to Justin a little bit about that, the story of the Alaskan king crab leg.
Well, I'm going to tell you, this is one of those things. The crab legs are not fresh. You cannot get fresh Alaskan king crab legs. They fish for them 1 to 2 weeks out of the year. That is it. Period. Done. What they are is they're frozen on the tender, immediately coated in ice, which seals in the flavor, and then shipped to us. So we steam these crab legs. They're protected with a layer of ice, which is great. They're tender. They are sweet. They go so well with butter, and they are huge. We used to get the largest size available, but Japan started buying those all off the market. So we had to move down a size, but we still get these two huge crab legs on your plate. As far as lobster, we have anything from 1.25 pound chick to a 2 to 3 pound lobster always is in the tank, and we can certainly get larger. Sometimes we do have larger. We can steam or grill your lobster. What makes our lobster different than many places is we use only live Maine lobster. Many restaurants use what's known as rock lobster or spiny lobster. Mm-hmm. They have a lobster tail on the menu. The rock lobster, the spiny lobster, doesn't have claws. It has these little spines that go out, and you can't eat those. So if you go to a restaurant and you see just a lobster tail, about 90% of the time, that's a warm water lobster. They grow quicker, but they're not as firm. They're not as sweet.
Interesting.
Only live Maine lobsters have that sweetness and that firmness to them that like a rock lobster just doesn't have.
Okay. So this answers a question of mine, because the first time I had lobster, it was not Splash, Bruce. Mm-hmm. It was somewhere else, and this is a good thing because it was terrible. And I had that, and then I had lobster somewhere else, and it was exceptional. And I'm like, correct. What was the difference? I was like, was it just that I got something that wasn't fresh? But you're saying depending on where you select your lobster, that changes the flavor profile. And so you're getting lobsters from Maine because you said it's like
Maine lobsters are the best.
Okay. I had no idea.
Generally, they gain about 1 pound every 5 to 7 years. So they grow slowly, which means they're not, the rock lobsters get up to 2 pounds in 2 or 3 years. But that doesn't make for a nice firm flesh. Doesn't impart the sweetness into the lobster like a Maine lobster would have that sweetness. And plus, you get 2 different textures in a Maine lobster. You get both the claw meat and the tail. So some people like claw, some like tail. You get to try both with the Maine lobster.
And those spiny lobsters, to your point, Scott, they're in warm water. They grow fast. Their flesh is mushy, and it's much less expensive. It's a cheaper version of lobster. So that might have been what you were eating that day.
Yeah,
Justin, probably a spiny lobster.
So the same principle in like a lot of food applies here, which is if it's super fast and you're trying to boost it to grow faster, it might affect the flavor or degrade the flavor. And if you wait and you select it from the right spot, that does translate to flavor when it's on someone's plate.
Correct. Well, and just like the cold water oysters, the cold water lobsters, it's one and the same. That flesh is just sweeter, firmer, richer, and tastier.
Yeah. And now I promised last question for you before, I let you go is I promised to talk about wine.
Sure.
And so I know that this is one area that's really overwhelming for people. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've seen the meme of the guy like swirling the wine and like going crazy extravagant with like, I don't know. Have you seen this meme? I don't know if anybody knows what I'm referring to. Maybe I'm in a world of my own.
I've seen the characteristics with people at a table for sure.
And I know that most people are like really uncomfortable because they don't know how to judge wine. They don't know how to taste it. They don't know when you hand them the cork. They don't know what that means. They don't know what they're supposed to do. And so what are some basic... I know your wine selection. Let's start with your wine selection's insane. So talk about that.
Right.
And then talk about what are some of the basics people can do when they want to enjoy a glass of wine with their meal.
First of all, visit a quality restaurant. You're going to get quality wine. We don't have any dogs on our menu when it comes to wine. There's no white Zinfandel on there. White Zinfandel is actually a mistake.
Really?
Yeah, they were making Zinfandel, which is a red grape, and they leave the skin of the grape in the vat while it matures. Well, a new guy came in and was like, "Oh, they left the skin in there. I got to skip that off." So he got out a net and he took all those skins out of the wine. And it had been in there for a day. It was a pink color. Well, so the vintner's like, "What am I going to do with this vat of wine? Am I just going to throw this away?" So it was a joke. They gave it to all their wine friends, and they called it White Zinfandel. And it actually caught on in America with many people who enjoy sweeter wines. They have maybe been introduced to Rieslings or Moscatos or some of the sweet varietals out there. So it caught on in America and became very popular for a while. So there's definitely visit a quality place.
And to that, our Splash cellar, we have over $300,000 worth of wine. We have varieties from Italy, from France, from Australia, from New Zealand, from Chile.
Right.
You can just speak to our wines, our varieties, and it's a wonderful selection. Wine Spectator Award of Excellence for 24 years in a row.
What do you do then when someone doesn't understand wine? They don't know what they're doing. They come to the restaurant. How do you normally coach them through that?
First
Are
of
you
all,
pairing with meals, or are you just pairing to the person?
You can pair or you can contrast. There's two thoughts on this. A lot of people like to pair a buttery wine with a buttery fish like sea bass. I personally like to contrast because I like to cleanse the palate between bites. So I go for a drier wine with sea bass to cleanse that palate. So every time I take a bite of that sea bass, it's that refresh, that butteriness of that. But people will tell you white wine with seafood and red wine with steak. Ultimately, drink what you like, but I think your best thing to do is look for wine from places that are next to the ocean. Italy is great wines with seafood. They're light, they're crisp, so they don't overwhelm the fish. They have a minerality which dries that palate, cleanses that palate between bites. I love Italian wines with seafood. There's certainly great American wines with seafood as well. France has wonderful wines. What a lot of people don't realize is, what we call a Pinot Noir in America, what they call that a Burgundy in France.
Oh.
So it is kind of a game where you have to know some things to understand the wine list. But all of our servers are very knowledgeable on wine. We do wine tastings regularly. We do wine quizzes and wine knowledge on a regular basis. So that is, having a well-trained staff is going to get you what you want. They will lead you to dry or sweet, light or heavy, white or red. Those are your basic, three questions. And then, kind of steering from there. You're looking for a bottle. I have a great Albarino. It goes great with oysters. Or if you're looking for something with tuna, you can go a Merlot or a Zinfandel. Nice peppery Zinfandel goes really well with the tuna. So you have to figure out what they're going to eat and what their tastes are and then guide them to that.
For the best seafood in Des Moines, go to Splash in downtown Des Moines. A question for either one of you as we wrap, Bruce or Scott. What's the website if people want to get reservations and come talk to Scott and one of your fully trained people on this stuff? I'm sure people would appreciate being walked through a menu rather than just having something tossed down and, good luck. This is something that people want to know. So what's the website?
Well, Splash is also on Open Table. So if you are an Open Table person, we're right there. Actually, we're one of the highest rated restaurants in all of Iowa on Open Table. Wow. But www.splash-seafood.com takes you to the best seafood in Iowa.
Best seafood in Iowa, best seafood in Des Moines, just all the boxes. Bruce Gerleman, the owner of Splash, and Scott Valder. Do I just call you head trainer of all the servers?
No, just call me Scott.
Ringmaster? Can I call you Ringmaster?
You may call me Ringmaster.
Please go to Splash and ask for Ringmaster Scott Valder, and let's get this trending. Thanks, both of you, for coming in here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Justin.